Well, the small, slightly boring thing we have to do is structurally linkable.
It's not
Otherwise, we get the
small, I
user
think.
stories. Yeah. Yeah, it's not small.
I
That's
mean,
the problem.
we
It's
could
difficult.
always have a go at it. Actually, yeah, I had one insight regarding to structured linkable. Let me see whether I can remember what that was.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, I think I remember. We now said that a usable claim. Let me screen share. No, I clicked the wrong thing. We now said that a usable claim is a immutable structurally linkable system claim, which we're all very happy with.
yes.
And immutable means it can be retrieved and it's guaranteed to always have the same representation. But does it say anything about immutability of the structural linkability? As in,
Yeah, I think that's fine. It's an adjective, it's composition.
Yeah, we don't really know. I think it's undefined at this point. Like if a usable claim, which by definition is structurally linkable, can a usable claim ever become non-structurally linkable again? And that's an interesting thing we didn't really talk about.
That's a good one.
And the implications thereof on the user stories.
Okay, yeah. That's a great question. Can a usable claim, can a claim stop being structurally linkable? In my opinion, no.
Well, a usable claim. And yeah, in my opinion, also no, but I think Timothy might disagree.
Okay, I think usable is a reversible state, but structurally linkable shouldn't be. Like you can stop being usable because, you know, you can stop being accepted. Accepted is reversible.
But usable has nothing to do with accepted.
That's true.
So if usable is a reversible state, it's probably either because it's no longer externally linkable, it's no longer structurally linkable, or it's no longer immutable even. But that begs the question.
I don't think you can stop being immutable. I think immutable is in a reversible state. System claim, you can stop being a system claim. You can be deleted, I guess, in the system. That's a scenario.
Is that immutable?
What? Yeah, not what I want, and certainly not what I want to allow, but in theory, some systems may allow deletion of immutable things, you know, ejection from the cache, whatever. So again, that's something I want to support particularly. I can certainly a scenario where something stops being externally linkable, but do I care? Because what will happen most of the time is if I'm using it, I've probably imported my own copy and then it's structurally linkable because it's become internal. And then the external.
Yeah, okay, but we haven't defined structurally linkable, which is part of the problem. But if you look at the use case, the reason we added structurally linkable inside of usable claim is because the whole point is that you want to share that with people so they can add their supporting and opposing arguments.
Yes.
That is the crux of the use case here. So what happens if I link to a usable claim and it goes through some process in whatever system and it no longer becomes usable? Does it still live up to the desired use case here that it is structurally linkable, which is core? Or you could argue, like, does that mean that a system, once a claim is usable, should always keep it as usable, or in this case, structurally linkable? And I would argue yes for that use case. For me, that's the whole definition, the whole difference between acceptance, and that's why for me it was so interlinked in structural linkability, because once it's accepted as a claim, for me it will always be usable. Even though I do agree with later use cases that there might be improved claims that link back to other usable claims, etc. But they are entirely different reasons for not wanting a claim to be usable, structurally linkable. This is very abstract. But do you see that there's a problem there as well?
I'm trying to understand what the problem is, because for me it's
what does it mean for a usable claim that was used as part of this user story to no longer be structurally linkable. Like a concrete example
Yeah,
of
yeah,
that
yeah.
would be.
I think that makes absolutely no sense. It has to remain. I think structurally linkable has to be irreversible.
I think so too, and I think that's an interesting thing to pick up with Timothy, because that's why for me, because that is irreversible, that's why for me I do want to go through some acceptance criteria. Otherwise, yeah.
No. No, but one second. No, one second. Structurally linkable is irreversible. I didn't say that externally linkable was irreversible.
Okay.
And that means usable is, and then usable is not irreversible.
Okay, and what's your rationale for saying that structurally linkable is not reversible, but externally linkable is? I mean, it's the same, right? If I link to a claim and that link dies,
yeah,
it defeats the purpose of the use case.
Let me look at the use case again. I want to so that my readers can subordinate roles a usable claim, which is visible to the. Yeah. No, you're right. It should remain externally linkable. No, I agree with you, finally. So, okay, it's fine. It's still linkable. And if it stops being accepted, because this is really what we're worried about, people will have a link to a claim that has been obsoleted.
I think what is it? Maybe we should focus on that use case, the not that stops being accepted, to clarify that, because what I get more and more is there's two different reasons for a claim not being accepted. There's the one where it is not a claim. For me, the most fundamental basic thing is spam, etc. I don't want to maintain that as structurally linkable, so hence I want some approval process for acceptance in that regard.
Right.
The other ones are the ones that whenever we talk about like, oh, but I don't think people should be able to add claims anymore. I think that's slightly different. That is, it is still a claim. It is still accepted as a claim in the previous sense, but it might not be a good claim to discuss, which is a different type of acceptance with different acceptance criteria. And I think what we've been doing so far is we've been talking about these as one and the same, and I don't think they are.
Okay, two things. First, let's first settle the Viagra thing, because there's two use cases. Mm-hmm. One is, I still think it's important for.
Let's maybe add it, right?
Let's discuss it first, and we'll discuss expression second.
Yeah.
I still think it should be structurally linkable, maybe not externally, for all the reasons I gave of progressive formalization, except
But
pushing.
Sorry, Viagra does that need progressive formalization?
No, it's about candidates. It's about I want to be able to put a candidate and to link to a candidate before it's accepted. I think that's a viable.
Yeah, but that's externally linkable. That's why
that's structurally linkable. That's exactly the difference I'm making. I can propose to the system by Viagra as objection to whatever well-established accepted claim.
As a candidate.
I should be as a candidate objection, exactly. And I should be able to put it as a candidate objection and to say, if it gets accepted, it should be counted as an objection. Now it doesn't get accepted, but that means it's already linkable if I'm able to put it there internally, structurally. But
let me see, because I don't think we defined that.
But that's
we have never said that a candidate claim is linkable. I mean, a candidate is a candidate. It is decoupled right now.
No, but this was the whole point of the whole rigmarole for me. It's saying we don't necessarily agree on the fact that candidates are structurally linkable, and I think they could be. I think it's a valid use case.
So if you have a structurally linkable candidate, yes, then it's structurally linkable, of course.
Of course, but it may not be externally linkable yet. Maybe it has to go through the basic acceptance process before it's externally linkable.
Yeah, okay, I guess it depends what external linkable means as well. Because I mean, you can always link to the candidate, right? So it would always be
We don't say that candidates are externally linkable.
But then who can see it, or how do you?
You can see. You can.
With this definition, I don't get what it would mean for the candidate not to be externally linkable. Like.
Okay. 1 second. I just want to tell somebody I'm in a call right now.
How is anyone going to interact with it if it's not externally linkable? And it's only the system internally that does shit with it? I mean, that doesn't really make sense.
1 second. I should be more strict about putting my unavailable, but I'd have to put it on so many places. It's ridiculous. It's okay. Suppose you have a UX for managing candidates, which but the candidates are not in the API of the system that is
okay.
But
how is that UX implemented if it's not accessible through the API?
Well, there's a public API and there's a private API, right? And it's not in the public API, it's in the private API that.
Okay, what is private and what is public? Where do you draw the line?
Wherever you want, you're designing the system.
Because none of that is in the current definition of externally linkable. If that's what you meant by outside of the system, because for me, I mean, when you have a user interface, for me, that is outside of the system by default.
Okay, for me, UX is part of the system. Oh, wow.
I'm not certain I know what this means then. So something which can be retrieved from outside of the system. So, I mean, if you have UX, you can always scrape a web page and you can retrieve it and it's externally linkable, no? For example?
Well, yes and no.
Or is a web page not UX?
A web page is UX. There's social contracts aspects to this, right? If you scrape it, it doesn't, for example, there's no guarantee that the link is going to be persistent, reusable. But
that's not part of this definition.
There, it was my intent, so maybe my intent was well expressed, and we'll have to review the definition. But it's true that for me, externally linkable, it's intended to be externally linkable. That is, if somebody cheats and finds it otherwise, it's not my problem. There's no guarantee of stability of the name API, whatever, as opposed to, here's a resource identifier, and we guarantee that's what a public API is, that if you come back to us with this resource identifier, you'll get a meaningful response, even if the meaningful response is, oh, sorry, we've deleted that. But you'll get a meaningful response with that identifier. And we guarantee it. So that's what I mean by externally. There's a kind of social contract in the public API, which
I don't see why you draw such a arbitrary line between, I mean, if you go to Google, and I mean, I don't see I don't draw that distinction between user interface and APIs at all. I mean, APIs are user interfaces for developers essentially. And I don't see that contract being that much more, I mean, yeah, it's more tight and it's more strict, but if you go to a Wikipedia article.
API are UX for programmers, no problem with that. And there's the notion that you make things available for others with APIs. That's true. The question is, where do you draw the system boundary, right? And there's always.
Yeah, exactly. That was my question, exactly.
And yes, I mean, we're both disagreeing on where to put it. For me, the UX is part of the system. I maintain that. And if there's a internal API between the UX and the backend that is accidentally exposed, it doesn't mean that it's meant to be exposed. It's implementation detail. I mean, we could cryptographically encrypt the private API if you want, or not. The question is, the UX is what the UX says it does. And if it doesn't say it does something, such as provide persistent identifiers for candidates, even if it does it, it doesn't say it does it, so it's not part of the API, of the interface with the world. The fact that it's part of its interface between internal subsystems, including web page, is an implementation accident.
I find it a very hard line to draw, because you are talking about a distributed system as one system here.
All systems are built of components, and all chunking of systems is a view of the mind. I don't know. It's like the backend in database is also
Okay, but let's go back to the use case, because the only reason we introduced is to make sure that you can point to it.
Yes. The question is, and by the way, I'm not even religious about that, but I mean, this is what, for me, the meaning of those terms was. And I realized after all these efforts, we didn't even align.
Well, let's check the examples. A web page with URL, yes. A published research paper with DOE, yes. Internal data structure that is not exposed outside of a system. So you are saying, in other words, that
that's a good point. Like, the candidate would be on a web page, and here I'm saying, well, it's on a hidden internal web page. I should maybe have said a.
It depends on the candidate of what. It depends on the entity you're talking about, that it is a candidate of. Right?
Right.
And you're saying that.
No, it doesn't. Okay, forget candidate 2 seconds. Let's just focus on defining externally linkable.
But it is defined. Like, try to add some examples that you want to include here, that the controversy might be around, because I'm not certain I get it. I mean, it all depends on what the system is, and which actually, again, it might be about time that we define claim repository.
That's possibly a good idea. Yes, that would probably.
Because for me, the system is a claim repository. At least in this use case, it is. It says so in a claim repository.
And you would exclude the UX of the claim repository from the claim repository?
I don't really care. It's on a conceptual level right now. If the system is a claim repository, it would include the UX, yes. Okay,
good. I want to, because for me, the notion of excluding the UX is what really puzzled me in your reaction.
No, I guess in that sense, I agree. And I mean, external linkable is indeed, because it's another website, it's not a claim repository. It's like a website wanting to link to the claim repository, which is the use case of it being externally linkable. But the web page here is not part of a claim repository. It's someone else that.
Okay. Now I understand the misunderstanding. Got it. I was interested in the other direction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the web page. I want to take a sentence from my web page and put it in the claim repository.
Yep.
Right. Now, once I've put it in the claim repository, it's presumably a candidate.
Well, that could be one way of dealing with it, if that's the use case you're describing, yes.
Yeah, or yeah, it's at least a possible scenario, yes. And as a candidate, is it externally linkable from the repository to the web page? Can the web page say, hey, that claim on the page is in this repository, is also in this repository?
If it's not, yeah, exactly. And then my question is, if it's not externally linkable, is it even in the system? How can I, as a web page author, link to it or use it? Or
right. And the what I'm saying is, it can be in the system, but not be exposed, not be externally linkable. And then in that case, obviously you can't link to it, right?
Yeah, so then the use case is, so does it fit that use case
Now-
at all?
Now what I'm realizing, and you're right, is that candidates have to be externally linkable because
Exactly.
of that. Yeah,
That
there
was
you're
my
right.
point.
That was your point, and it's a valid one. Okay, fair. Sorry. So if candidates are always externally linkable,
That actually is an interesting observation we might want to add.
yes, that I agree.
Well, let's add it to the meeting notes, but I think it makes sense. But
Yeah.
yeah, well, it is part of information successfully submitted to the system, which I would say means that it's externally linkable.
Yeah. So there's really not many counter cases of externally linkable or structurally linkable.
It's actually similar to system.
Well, though actually, no, it's not true. We could, for example, some systems may decide that candidates are not structurally linkable.
Yeah, structured linkable is separate, but we were talking about externally for a second, right?
Yeah. But what I'm saying is there's nothing in the system that is not externally linkable. I think that's a consequence of our conversation.
Well, let's leave it for now. But when we started this conversation was where you said, I don't want the candidate claim to be externally linkable, and that's what confused me, because then
yeah, and you convinced me otherwise.
So I think you're more talking about you don't want it to be structurally linkable, which we haven't fully defined. So
no.
it might make sense to try to define what you were trying to say as a user story, so we can get to the bottom of that.
For the record, I think Tim doesn't want it to be structurally linkable, but I was clear all along. I do want it. I do want the candidate to be structurally linkable.
I don't want it to be structurally linkable.
You don't. Okay, fair enough.
And the reason for that, now using the vocabulary we have, is because once it's structurally linkable, I would argue I don't want it to not become structurally linkable anymore. Like the question is, once something becomes structurally linkable, does it always maintain it? It's like if Viagra becomes structurally linkable.
Got it.
Why? But again, it depends on what structurally linkable means.
And maybe that means that structurally linkable is not irreversible after all. Maybe a rejected claim is no longer structurally linkable.
Maybe.
I'm beginning to like this. And then we can delete the existing links.
Or it is no longer structurally linkable henceforth, or something like that. Because I mean, if it already was structurally linked in the first place, what do you do with all the places where it is linked to once it is rejected?
Well, those links would be marked as obsolete because they use a rejected. So those links would also get the rejected state.
Yes. That sounds about right. And for me, that's probably different from, yeah, I don't know. Those are the use cases I think where we're struggling still. So it might make sense to express those as user stories. And that I think we can do now.
Yes. As
moderator or whatever, as a
moderator, I want to reject a candidate claim, and all links that were structurally linking to it, or all structural links to it. Does that sound right?
Well, because this presupposes that a candidate claim is structurally linkable. So I want to reject the structurally linkable candidate claim.
If it's not, there's no user story. It's fine. If in a given system, a candidate claims are not structurally linkable, which is a valid, but then that user story has no reason to exist. Though I guess that's a reason to have the text. Okay, fair.
Yeah, but isn't it just a usable claim? It is. I want to reject a usable claim.
Oh, that's a different story.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't think it is a oh, unless you don't want to include immutable. Yeah.
No. What I'm saying is, okay, there. Yeah.
I mean, what is it that you're rejecting?
No, you're right. Okay, the idea is that whenever this user story happens, and that was the first question really, does it only ever apply to candidates, or does it apply to including accepted claims?
But you can choose. That's essentially what I'm asking. Like, what is this entity? Just like we did with usable claim.
Yeah.
Like, what is this thing? And of course, if you want to remove structured linkable claims, it seems to imply that it's a structured linkable candidate.
Yeah, but what I was about to say, and this is where it gets interesting, is that these are two use cases, but I think both exist, but they're different.
Mm-hmm.
One is we have a candidate, we decide to reject it, and then of course obsolete all structural links. Fine, not delete, but obsolete, reject all links. Fine. The other scenario is we had a accepted claim, we used it, and we decide that it is obsolete because it's too ambiguous, because this, because that. So we want to replace it with a better version, right? We want to supersede, I think would be the proper term, an immutable accepted claim. And then we want to equally supersede all structural links to it. So they're not.
But that's the later use case. I don't think we're talking about right now.
It's
this
a different story.
About,
it's what I did say. It's a different story, and I think they should be different. So let's keep this with structurally linkable candidate claim, because rejection is something that happens to candidate claims, and and supersession is something that happens to accepted claims. Is it possible that the supersession puts the original claim in a rejected state or not? I don't know. Requires thought. I don't have a strong opinion on that.
Yeah, but it depends on what it means to reject. If you want to reject all structural links to it, then yeah, what does that mean? So in reject we have, right, more or less, if it's the opposite of accepted as, it would mean that it doesn't fit the criteria.
Yeah.
So then it depends on the noun, on the claim.
Yeah.
And my question to you is, what is the claim here?
What do you mean? It's a candidate. I did say it's a candidate in this user story.
But it is a claim in the sense of this. Because this does say the earth is flat is a claim that way. And I mean, remember that this definition of claim allows indexical references, etc., and vagueness and everything. So if you reject a claim for a different reason than these acceptance criteria, you're no longer talking about the same claim that is listed here.
I see what you're saying. Yep. Yes,
and that's this ambiguity. That's the ambiguity we're trying to resolve. So I think this is probably a canonical claim. In the case of superseding stuff, it's going to be a different type of claim than.
But this is not the superseding story. It's a rejection story.
Just clarifying whichever one it is, we need to be clear what the reason.
No, I think the rejection story is about claims. It's about saying this is not even a claim. This is the Viagra story.
So these claims, yes. Okay. Yes, agreed.
Let's start with the Viagra story.
Yeah. So as moderator, I want to reject. So this is a claim. I'm gonna say claim because brackets, so it's clear that it's a claim we already know.
Yeah. And structurally linkable and candidate are also. And we're not putting use it. Yeah.
Actually, all of these are defined.
Yeah. Yeah, but they're defined separately, not as a whole.
Yeah, is it clear if I keep them separate?
Yes, I think it's fine. Both are true, with or without those last brackets.
Okay, let's try to show that. So what's the reason for doing this?
So that it does not pollute the system. So that the system cannot be used to propagate publicity and disinformation. So that the system is not used for publicity, does not propagate publicity.
Doesn't it mean not making it structurally linkable anymore? It seems like
yes, it does.
Exactly. So it really seems that acceptance and rejection has all to do with structural linkability, which is more or less what I was arguing. But
yes, I agree. I agree. And this is, you know, I said structural linkability shouldn't be reversible. That was a mistake. And I did give it.
So if you're rejecting, it actually means accepted. I want to reject and accept it.
No, you can reject a candidate.
Oh yeah, sorry, that's true. But can you reject an accepted one as well?
And that's what I'm saying is a different use case. It's possible that the criteria have become more stringent in the system. And the point you made, that was my point, but the point you made, which was interesting, is that what you're probably doing in that case is rejecting it as something more stringent and not necessarily rejecting it as something else. Like you may be downgrading inclusivity category, which again is a different case because in that case, it remains structurally linkable, I think. Like, for example, is an indexical claim structurally linkable? Do we want to remove indexical claims? Possibly.
Well, an indexical claim is structurally linkable if you say that all candidate claims are structurally linkable.
Yeah, I agree. So the question is, do we want to reject, that is, make unusable?
But I think this is fine. I think this is fine.
Claims.
So this user story essentially says, I mean, this is the reason I don't want to do it, but if you allow non-accepted claims to be structurally linkable, it does mean that if the main reason for rejecting them is to make them not structurally linkable. And then we can argue like...
So that nobody will see them anymore.
Yes. Yeah, but that's so that's important here, so that they can be hidden from the user interface, and then we can always say that optionally retrieve them or whatever. We want to keep them so that if somebody re-enters the same claim, it will go to the same thing, which we know is okay. Is this possible? If you create, what happens if you add accepted structurally linkable claims to hidden claims? So I'm trying to understand, and all structure links to it, right? So what happens if you have a candidate claim and you add a supporting accepted claim? That means that link will also get hidden. Yes, as it should. Yeah. I think links in either direction will be hidden, and that's as it should. I'm just trying to think whether there's any complications by stating it like this. If not, that's probably good to go. I'm actually even gonna add it here. This is a pretty well-defined user story. Yeah. It's probably still in a claim repository, just to be... It's fine. Yeah. And let's have the second one, the variant, where we are speaking about saying, you know, this may be a valid claim, but it may not be canonical enough. It may be too indexical. It may be too ambiguous. And we want to... In a claim repository is hidden from... I've said from view. It's fine. The user interface is a bit undefined, but it's essentially in. Isn't it so they no longer are externally linkable? It's also a consequence, yes.
the claim will lose. Though, okay, that's interesting. No, not necessarily. Because
not necessarily, because you can choose to still allow showing them for full transparency, which probably we should.
Yeah, and the person who entered it and said, "Oh, here's this claim I entered in the
Yeah.
repository that you can
They
find
still
my
want to
page."
see that it was rejected. Yeah.
Yes. So no, it stops being structurally linkable, but it doesn't stop. But let's linking. It's okay for the linking. I think we can. Candidate, by the way, you lost the N in candidate.
Thank you. Candidate claim. Oh, structure links as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, but that's good enough for now. Yeah, I'll think about it after the meeting.
No problem.
I'm still seeing whether or not there's anything that couldn't be removed, but well, or rejected. Probably it works. Okay, as a moderator, I want to reject an accepted claim.
Yeah, is it reject or supersede? Now that's interesting. Can we reject an accepted claim? Probably.
I think there are two different reasons. I think you can reject an accepted claim for user story 2. And I think you can reject the claim for, I think it depends on the CDL.
Yes.
And I think maybe in one case, you don't want to remove all structure links. In the other one, you want to.
But by the way, will we, and those are again two user stories, are we speaking about rejecting an accepted claim or rejecting an accepted canonical claim? Aha.
Claim. It is the only claim we have. We haven't talked about canonical claim yet.
Yeah, but you see why I'm asking, right? Because the reason, the point you were making to me.
And I think that's exactly to make clear. This is a user a separate use case. We will have two. I think there's a claim.
Yeah.
So I want to reject an accepted claim and all structure. That is the same use case essentially, and I think it's the same in that one. So I would argue I want to reject a candidate or accepted claim, because the reason will still be so that these can be hidden from the user interface, whereas the other one is probably canonical claim, where you don't necessarily want to remove the structure, so that no new links to it may be created, for example. I think that's a difference.
Right. Yeah, I'm trying to think, when will it happen? And I'm not saying it won't happen, but what's your idea of when will it happen that will reject an accepted claim? Is it because we've changed the acceptance criteria or that we misapplied them, which is possible? Do you see other cases?
Well, or in Timothy's case, when it's auto accept.
Ah, point. Very, very good point. Okay, so I want to reject an acceptance so that no new links to it may be created. You're right, that is different. And now we need to define canonical claim. No, good. I'm happy.
And I think this is the terminology we have now that shows that these are very different use cases, even though we've been talking about them as being the same-ish. And then we need to check that with Timothy whether he agrees to this.
Yeah.
I think he may. I want to reject and accept the canonical claim so that.
So canonical claim needs to be added to the entities.
Yeah.
And this one goes in entities to be defined.
Yep. It's
Strictly
already there.
speaking, the other one also
Should
needs
be.
it because we have, I don't think canonical repository, sorry, claim repository is defined either. And maybe we should work on that. That would be a good use of what time remains.
I'm always confused by, oh, here, right? No, yeah, create from template. The create from template button is not visible enough.
I agree. Should we make that an adjective? Really?
Here.
Make canonical an adjective, because canonical claim, we keep doing the same thing.
I guess we'll find out when we try to. I mean, it all depends. I think it's going to be.
We'll have canonical definitions, canonical arguments, same story.
Yeah, but the criteria are going to be different, as far as I know. So I think it's an entity in this case.
Okay, I won't argue with that. Okay. The notion of
by the way, I had the impression we had like indexicality already someplace. Did we remove it entirely?
Good
it was probably question. Part of accepted or something. Yeah, I think. Yeah, it was this one. Yeah, acceptable immutable claim. This might be the canonical one.
Right.
Yes, well, to be determined.
Can be as declarative sentence, no indexical reference as a whole.
Still pretty basic.
And that's a good question, because I think there's kind of two levels of definition. And I think this is the one we'll want most of the time. But I know that Tim also sometimes uses canonical to mean those that have not only well, good in that sense, but have a formalization such that we can rely on the identity of the formalization to have a good idea about claim equality, which is another, formalized canonical claim. Like, you see what I'm saying? It's not up to equivalence class. There's a process that translates it into something that doesn't need equivalence classes. I don't know if that's possible, but maybe it is. But that's clearly one meaning that Tim uses for canonical. But
yeah, I think canonical goes a bit. Yeah, we need to talk with Tim about that. But yeah. I just realized that this list might actually be the one that we need here as well.
Oh yeah, clearly. Let's just rename it. Delete your new thing and rename that.
This one.
Canonical. Yeah.
But it's not canonical. So this is only. So this is already immutable can be removed for sure. Yeah, this is the whole thing where we talk about not using images and stuff like that. So yeah. I actually think that we want to link to
well, let's rename it first, because I don't think acceptable is there.
Yeah, but to what?
Okay.
Because I think that's one we want to use in this user story.
Why do you say that's not canonical? How is it not canonical? Sorry, I'm trying to understand that.
No, it may be. It may be.
One way I could see in which it's different is you refer to.
Yeah, with synonyms and stuff, but maybe that's not what canonical is.
No, but one second. Let me finish. You define it in terms of claims and not system claims. Maybe that's a difference.
No, you mentioned equivalence classes. If this if we call this a canonical claim, that this is only one claim. It's not an equivalence class of multiple.
Yeah.
If that's what it is, I'm okay with it. But I always thought that Timothy had higher intentions with canonical being equivalence classes.
And that's why I'm saying there's kind of two definitions of canonicality. And okay, so let's not use canonical for now because there are two notions and we don't know which one means. And let's avoid the name for now.
So this is the single one, whichever that is. It's a good claim.
It's a good claim. Let's use that. It's a good claim. Now, question. Right now, you're having it as claim rather than system claim. Is that intended?
No, that's just
or accepted system claim, or you know what I mean? Maybe it should be.
I think it's actually correct. It is just because this is primarily about the criteria.
Okay.
And
so we could speak of accepted good claim, and
actually we still even have agreement on this one, so it's interesting. I mean, the name is maybe different.
Yeah.
But the agreement is there, and I think this is a good claim. It sounds silly, but
well, what I think, frankly, is that what we want is accepted good claim, which is the accepted system version of that. It's been accepted as a good claim through whatever process. See what I'm saying? It was accepted as a good claim.
no, because it can still be a candidate. We just said.
Not exactly.
So as a moderator, I want to reject a candidate.
Yeah. Exactly what I'm saying. Good claim is abstract, and let's have accepted good claim as another entity, which is it's being accepted as a good claim. And here we're speaking about, I want to reject an accepted good claim, which is something else than a good claim. Though I guess it's accepted as a good claim. Okay, fair, you're right. Because accepted is an adjective, so we
exactly.
can use it. Okay.
It's the exact same, except that the criteria now are more stringent. Now indexicality and size and all these things that we talked about at great length is included, which is what we want because we don't want to include these really lengthy, useful stuff. So I think that work remains.
Yeah. Okay. And okay. So then, can we expand the use case 3? No new links may be created, and all links can be flagged for review.
I need to. What does that mean? So let's go over a use case. We haven't defined canonical claim, but so this is good claim.
This is good claim.
So it is a good claim.
Oops, you put the.
And I think this is my point always.
If the one above is not about good claims, about claims in general, the one above.
No, it's about good claims.
Is it?
Yes.
No. If somebody puts a non-good claim, a bad
like
claim.
Another claim, like a lexical, this is true.
That's
a claim. Yes. So it's a candidate good claim. This is true.
Yeah.
And you want to reject it. On which grounds are you going to reject it?
What I'm saying is I don't want to totally kill it from the user interface, unlike the Viagra one. I want to say this needs work. Let's try to make it into a good claim, as opposed to let's banish it from the face of the UX. It's a very different use case. I don't want to banish it. I want to.
Nothing says that these are immutable. Nothing says you can change these. Just as you want to reject it.
But that remains true. What I'm saying is, if it's a candidate or accepted good claim, I probably don't want to reject it. I want to flag it.
Rejecting it is so that they're hidden.
Yes, I don't want to do that. I want to show it and say it needs work. I don't want to hide it. I want to say, hey, can we make that better?
So you want 3 different degrees of hiding. You want to hide something entirely. You want something hiding it for revision. Are these things still structurally linkable? The ones that I've hidden for revision, or the ones that I marked for revision, are they structurally linkable?
Yeah, I would say they're structurally linkable. It might be, there might be a good idea there. It's just not expressed right. Maybe it's crap and I want to reject it, but maybe not. And I don't think that, usually it will be not, unless it's totally unintelligible, and that's grounds for.
So why, if that's the case, would you show it to other people? What's the reason for still showing this to other people? Maybe to others?
No, let's not change it until we agree what we are changing.
Yeah, but I mean, I can undo.
Please do, because I don't know what you mean here.
So what does it mean so that it can be hidden from the user interface? If it's totally junk, you want to hide it for everyone. But
yes.
Now you're talking about yet another use case where you want to, it's apparently maybe salvageable, but
Yes.
While it's salvageable, do you then want to show it to, who do you want to show it to? To everyone still?
That's a good question. I'm a bit agnostic about that, but showing it to everyone is for me a perfectly fine possibility, because I would want crowdsourcing and I would want everyone to help improve it.
So, but now you're implying that everyone can edit it.
Yes.
So now you're implying that it's a mutable candidate, or it's a mutable claim that everyone can edit.
Well, it's not mutable. It's I mean, edit in the sense, propose a replacement. But I want it to be visible so that people can propose a replacement. I mean, okay, you know what? If you want to keep this story as is, let's have 2, because I think the one I had in mind that I had agreed with was with claim in general, and making it about good claims. You've lost me.
Well, let's
have it as another story. Let's have it as another story.
It is a different user story.
Yes.
And we're trying to figure out what we want by using better language, more specific language now to describe it, which makes all the world of difference.
Exactly.
So,
and for me, the second user story I thought was what I expressed in story 3. And you seem to say, no, I want to reject it. I'm saying
I see no use case in. Okay, so you essentially, yeah, no, I get it. So let's, yeah, so this is a claim in its whatever sense, but why wouldn't, because a claim right now can also be white supremacy. Like,
does not match,
why would that be hidden entirely? But is the earth flat question mark? Why wouldn't you help those people to revise that claim?
That's a valid question. That's a valid question. Do I want? Yeah, it makes sense that we could say some rejected claims, in that they're not even claims, could deserve work to be made.
Yeah, it sounds to me you're talking about 2 different types of rejection here.
Yes,
it's not the claim that matters. It's you have a different action on. I think we always want good claim. I think
no. Sorry, I still disbelieve that. I think it
depends on what reject means. I think you want to be able not to reject. You want to say, put on hold for improvements.
Yes.
But that's a different action. That's a different user story. It's still the same claim.
I see what you're saying. But you have a point that the either action can be posed either on non-claims or on non-good claims. But that's all the more reason to be using claim and not good claim in both user stories, because
I don't know. The question is,
what do we mean by rejecting here? And the question is, they're saying, I want to reject a candidate claim, and that means it's not even a claim. Now, there's another case where I want to reject accepted good claim to say it's not that good. And that means I'm still acknowledging it's a claim. And then it makes sense, it makes more sense, and you're right, to have two actions there, but that doesn't mean that it makes no sense to have two actions in the other case of rejecting claimhood altogether. You have a valid point there. But what I'm saying is the question of the user story of rejection is not restricted to rejecting good claimhood. It can apply to rejecting claimhood. And that's why I absolutely don't want to see good claim in that statement too. And you make a good point that in story 3, we could just use claim instead of good claim because it makes sense to reject claimhood and still think, oh, you know what, maybe claimhood is salvageable. That's a valid point. So let's not use good claim in either story. And it's true that there's the story where we're rejecting good claimhood without rejecting
what
claimhood.
is it a candidate of is the whole question.
Exactly.
What are the criteria that are being evaluated?
Yes.
In both cases, it's a good claim. That's what I'm arguing. But you're arguing that with the same criteria, there's two ways of rejecting it. One is entirely, and the other one is saying, hey, this can be improved.
Right. No, you've
so, but in both cases, it is a good claim because that's the set of criteria that you're submitting as.
Right. And then the question is, there's another question there, is if something is rejected as a good claim.
And what does reject mean? And that's why the two different user stories. So it's more about defining what happens.
Yes.
Defining so that in more detail.
Yeah, because I probably don't want to lose the information if it's just not so good claim. I don't want to lose the information that it's used as support or objection to something else, because that's probably still true.
So we need to define the side effects of these actions. And by doing that, I think we're going to get a bit more detail.
Yeah, and really the case where we want to delete everything, and this is why, now I understand why you want good claim in 2, by the way. It's because it's rejecting it as 2 is a reason to do things. On the other, we're testing it as good claim. On the other hand, I don't think it makes sense to reject it, that is to banish it from the face of the UX, unless it also fails as a claim, unless it's unsalvageable. And
yeah, but then we need to define unsalvageable claim.
Possibly. But you see why
which is a different set of criteria, probably. But still, you want different side effects. What you're saying is you want different side effects. Rather than talking about what claim is, we need to be talking about the side effects.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, in 2, there's really 2 stories. There's, but it's nitpicky a bit, but it's true. It's nonetheless true. There's one where we're saying we had an accepted good claim, we checked it for good claimhood, and now we're decided it doesn't, after all, fit the definition of good claimhood. So we're retrograding it to claim, to not good claim, and that.
No, it's no longer claim even if you reject it.
No, that's the criteria. That's why I'm saying there's 2 stories. There's one where we're saying it's not even a claim, and there's one where we're saying, oh, it's still a claim, but it's not a good claim.
Yeah, it's not a good claim. So it doesn't fit all of the criteria.
Yeah, those are 2 different stories, and the impact is different. And I'm saying this whole hide the claim, hide the links would only apply to the case where we're rejecting it as a claim. If we're rejecting it as a good claim, I wouldn't do any of that. But where you're saying is that should probably be a moderator decision. That may also be true. But I'm saying I don't see a moderator having a good reason to banish a claim, which is what this story is about. Claim banishing, unless it's not even a claim. If it's just not a good claim, I don't see the point of that story.
Sure, but what does banishing a claim mean?
Hide the claim and all its links.
So I think the user story is, as a moderator, I want to hide a claim and all of its structural links. That's the user story. It's the side effects we need to focus on. That's what you want to do. And in the other case, you want to, as a moderator, I want to mark a claim as needing revision, or something like that.
A claim and its links.
And then we need to see how that fits in our terminology. But and rejecting is already jumping a bit ahead, because this is what you want to do.
Yeah. What's the so? It's interesting because we had it as so that before.
Yeah, but
what's the so that of that?
That's why the so that is always so important to add, because it covers sometimes the real thing hereafter.
You're right. So what is the so that of those? Let's think about it. As a moderator, I want to
well, it would be so that I can hide.
No, that's circular.
So that I can. Yeah, we can think about it later. I'm going to keep these two here for now. Do you want to keep these, or shall I just?
I want to keep these for now because I kind of like the original story, frankly, because the action is not hiding the claim. The action is saying this is not a claim, or this is not worth keeping. But
then you can say by rejecting. That's still possible. I'll just but because the confusion was like, what does it mean to reject, and what it can mean both, and that's the ambiguous bit here. Yeah. So that's what needed to be. I'm just gonna paste them here.
I agree, totally.
Can I do that here? No. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just gonna do it like this. So this is
yeah. I'm all for that kind of cheating.
More entities to be defined. It doesn't really matter. Work in progress.
Now remove line 10, 9 and 10 actually.
Okay, but I think it's useful. It shows that the terminology is helping us get out of this a bit.
Absolutely. No, I think this is still progress. I agree totally. It's a good conversation to be able to have.
Yeah, and then we know what to work on next time.
Yep. Delete
perfect.
9 and 10.
9 and 10.
Oh,
sorry.
No, maybe not. Okay, fine.
9 and 10.
No, it's okay. Yeah, because I was thinking those are like the work in progress, but you know what? It's fine. It's fine.
We have a lot of. We still only have one really clear one, but we're getting someplace here. So let's just continue on these. And I think they're very essential to the whole structure, linkable, and whatever discussion.
They are. So, no, this is progress.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
See you tomorrow, probably.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.